Welcome to the RevRoom. I'm your host, Rachel Bryant. Join me each episode as we discuss the strategies of top marketing practitioners, uncovering the tactics that transform ideas into revenue. Whether you're a seasoned marketer or an aspiring leader, the RevRoom is your go-to source for actionable advice and industry trends. So grab a coffee, get comfy, and enjoy this episode. Welcome, everyone, to the final episode of our 2024 season. And we're wrapping up our inaugural season on the RevRoom. So thank you for joining us on our episodes. We're talking change management today. Let's be honest, changing how marketing teams work isn't just about rolling out new processes and crossing our fingers and hoping for the best. Anyone who's tried that knows it's about as effective as using, like a pizza cutter to open your mail. That's kind of a weird thing to do. Today we're talking with Kimmah Lewis, who took her marketing team at Actian from traditional lead gen to ABM. They're in this process right now using an approach that had me literally saying to myself, why didn't I think of that? She'll share how she used some Uno cards, yes, the card game, to help her team internalize this massive shift. But this isn't just about playing games. It's about the art and science of making change stick in marketing organizations. So we'll dig into how sustainable transformation happens when you move beyond the shiny tools and fancy frameworks to focus on what really matters, your people. Kimmah is going to break down exactly how she got her team to not just understand ABM, but to own it, live it, and champion it. So grab your coffee and your favorite mug, and let's talk about leading marketing teams through constant change. Okay, well, hey, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. Welcome back. This is our final episode of season 1. So we'll be back in the new year with some new episodes. But we're really excited about our topic and our guests today. I'm especially excited because I get to work with Kimmah on a regular basis as one of our clients at Inverta. So I'm very excited. So we're going to talk a little bit about taking marketing teams through change management. And we're going to talk about it today in the context of launching a new ABM program and how we sort of shift from sort of traditional demand gen to more of an ABM lens. So I'm talking about how we take our teams through that change. So Kimmah, welcome to the podcast, and we're so excited to have you.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be here. Also, thank you for having me as the last guest for the year. So I feel special because I get to close the door in 2024, and that wasn't supposed to rhyme, but it did.
Oh, it did. That was great. I love it. No, that's perfect. No, yeah, thank you. And a nice round episode 10 for everybody. So we like that too. So us as marketers love round numbers. So anything we can take to the bank, we're in good shape. So great. Well, Kimmah, why don't you introduce yourself to the team and tell us a little bit about yourself?
So my name is Kimmah Lewis. I work at Actian as the Senior Director of Demand Generation and Operational Excellence. And that is a long way to say I do a lot of things. I've been with my current organization for 4 years, but I have been, or maybe 5, I don't know. Actually, we joke and we say internally that you age here in dog years, which is not a bad thing because you learn so much and you get so much experience. So I've either been here 4 years or 28 years, depending on if you're using dog years or human years. But I have been in marketing for 20 something years, even though I don't look like I could have been in marketing for, that's a shameless plug for myself, for that long. I have been in marketing for 20 plus years. And so I have done almost every job in marketing with the exception of, I think, product marketing at this point. I've done social media, I've done content, I've done email marketing. I've done design. I was probably a horrible designer, but I have a favorite color. I've done brand work, but I really cut my teeth in marketing automation. That is probably between marketing automation and digital, my first love, and really were like the key ingredients for me moving in my career because those are the things that require you to work across as many marketing teams and with as many marketers. And you have to be data driven. Like you have to be stuck on numbers, in love with numbers, be able to pivot your way into and out of everything. And literally that is what I do and what I love, probably to the consternation of my husband, who I would manage our marriage in a spreadsheet if I could. So that's a little bit about me and my marketing background.
Awesome. Well, great to hear. And I think I do manage our marriage in a spreadsheet. So we'll talk. Um, oh, well, great. So, Kimmah, great to have you. And by the way, I think I said introduce yourself to the team. It's like they call me Coach Rachel, so it was an automatic. But you're introducing yourself to the audience, who is a team. We're all teams in this revenue world that we live in. So it's great. Well, one of the things we like to do with our guests when they come on, just to kind of break the ice and allow them to just bring a personal side to the story, is for them to bring their favorite mug. And I know you've brought yours. I'll show you mine real quick. As in the last episode, we are in the Christmas season. So Kimmah and I have an affinity for Christmas decor,
Nope.
maybe some gear, maybe wearing some Christmas things, Christmas
Mhm.
backgrounds, all the things that come with Christmas. So we do like that. But I brought my ugly Christmas mug, I call it. And I bought this at like thrift shop or something. And it's how I like where I take it to Christmas parties if we go to a friend's house or something and put my drink in it. Today it just has water in it, so nobody needs to think any differently. But it's my ugly Christmas mug. So there you go.
First of all, it's not even ugly, so totally does not count. It's the
It's gigantic.
cutest mug, and this is someone who absolutely loves all things Christmas, so I'm probably the wrong person to but I love that mug, so if you sent me one, I would be really excited.
Okay. Making a note right now. All right.
Note to self. Okay,
That's
is it my
great. How
turn?
about your mug, Kim? Yeah, it's your turn.
Okay,
Go
okay,
for
so
it.
I have a mug. This is my mug, and there's a story behind it. So I'll bring it up close, not so you can read all the writing, but this is one of my early roles in my career. Maybe not early, mid in my career. I worked for a company, and Starbucks used to sell this mug. It came with it was nothing on it. It came with a little marker, and every time someone would leave, we would go and buy the mug. We would all write like farewell notes on it, and then you bake the mug, and then you bring it the next day, and then we give it to them. And so it was a tradition within our marketing team. And so when I left, which was super emotional because I absolutely, with the exception of my current team, that team was like literally like they were family to me. Like, and I still talk
Mm.
to some of them today. As a matter of fact, one of the people who I worked with at this job, I brought her to my current job, and she's now on my team. But this was my goodbye mug when I left that job in tears, by the way, because I did not want to go. So I
Oh, I love that.
still use it, and I still have it. I still got it, y'all.
Ah, I love it. They'll find that very heartwarming, I'm sure. That's fantastic. What a great tradition too. I
I
love
know,
learning
right?
about all those little things that people on teams do. So that's great. All right. Well, let's jump into talking a little bit about change management, which is, one of those things we all go, well, I should say there are some people who thrive in change. I'm probably one of them. Even though I would tell you I hate it, but I actually like doing different things. So my husband would tell you probably otherwise. But anyways, that's a story for another day. But a lot of people sort of go, change is hard, right? And it truly is, because we get stuck in our routines and we like the way things work and the way things function. So um let's talk a little bit about the journey at Actian right now. And your demand gen team is really going through a journey of shifting a lot of your focus from more of a broad, expansive sort of demand gen outbound effort um, to more of an account based focused. And um, tell the audience and let's talk a little bit about like what prompted the team to go on this journey and why this change.
So, great question. Um, what prompted us? So, in my tenure at Actian, I came in and we were doing traditional digital. I mean, and when I say traditional digital, we were doing LinkedIn ads and digital ads through display ads through Google. That was pretty as complex as it was, right? And so, over the last couple of years since I've been here, we went through getting the digital engine humming and getting on multiple channels and platforms and getting our messaging together, getting our creative together, really like starting to use digital as a lead gen engine to like get leads, but also for brand and also to get traffic to the website. 'Cause, it's multi-purpose, a multi-purpose tool and strategy, right? And so we kind of got that nail, got that together, build a lead lifecycle model so that we can actually figure out what was working, where things are going. And then we
Mhm.
graduated. We graduated to having a fully integrated campaign strategy where we looked at not only like the digital ads and advertising, but social as a channel, events maybe as an additional channel, webinars as a channel, email nurtures, like really building out the customer journey and saying like they start here, we want them to end here. So we're gonna build all of these things that are really heavily orchestrated or tightly orchestrated so that we could start to get to having more predictable outcomes. And so we hit that marker, right? So I call it crawl, walk, run.
Mm.
ABM is like running. And
Sure.
so we graduated, albeit to
Woohoo!
few of our consternation, because it goes going back to what you said earlier, like I don't even for those people who like change, I don't think anybody's like, "You know what? I wanna flip this table over and start all over." Like, nobody really says that, right? And as much as you're like, "Yes, this needs to happen," you don't just wake up and say like, "Hey, guys, we're gonna add something to the mix that's gonna complicate it." But I think the business gets to the point where what you need to deliver as a marketing organization needs to be repeatable. It needs to drive
Mhm.
pipeline. It needs to be predictable, right? Traditional lead gen, as well as you do it, doesn't really do that, especially for B2B, when you have more complex buying committees, when you need to touch multiple people. I can't afford to target um, the a company and only hit the janitor or the receptionist, which is what
That's
happens
true.
in traditional, right? Like you just don't
Yes.
know who you're going to be hitting. And so as the business grew, the need for the business to depend on the results of marketing also grew. And so traditional marketing just didn't scratch the itch anymore. So I didn't raise my hand and say, "Hey, boss person, um, and hopefully she doesn't see this, but or maybe she does. I'd love to do AVM. If my boss was on here, she would say that's absolutely not what Kim I did because I was just like, "Are you crazy? No." um, but it was absolutely the right thing. And then we started to graduate into okay, once it became a reality, we're going to graduate into it. And the thing about graduating to a next level is even though you graduate at the top of the class from the last level, you start at the bottom and the next.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
now we're like in kindergarten with ABM.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. Yeah.
kinda how we got here.
That's great. Now you talked a little bit about like, hey, the organization was really um needed to move in this direction, right? It was almost a requirement in order to help your growth goals and all of that. What about sort of assessing the readiness of the team and the marketing team and the organization and even like from a tools perspective, those sorts of things. Like how are you able to assess those things and know you are ready to make that change?
Um, so I think it's like I'll just say I'll answer the last question first, and then I'll go back to what you
Sure.
were say. I don't think you ever know if you're ready. It's like kinda like marriage and parenting. You're like, "I think this is a good idea." You'll see when it's a good idea later by how successful it is that you do it. So,
Yeah.
I think we were as ready as anyone is when they start something new and they don't know what the possibilities are. But I also think, like, we had a lot so first of all, we had a strong leader. Our CMO, her name is Jennifer Jackson. Look her up. Is absolutely incredible, and
Yep.
she is absolutely an incredible evangelist for the marketing organization. I will say that that also is it plays a big part in the readiness because it has to start from the top down. It can't be
Mhm.
like, "Oh, me, senior director of demand, we're going to start this new initiative that I want everybody in the organization to put their arms around and do it." It really is one of those things where my manager was socializing and getting everybody in the executive seat on board first, and we were building up the necessary pieces. as I think she
Mhm.
was also getting them, uh into the idea, like starting to educate them about what ABM was and the difference between it. Because we're talking about executives who are like CEOs and COOs and,
Yep.
SVPs of this different function. This is not their lane. And so there has to be like an education at the top to say this is going to be a huge investment, this is a huge change. And then once they're ready, then it's like, okay, do we have the right tech stack in place? Have we done enough of our due diligence with our existing tool sets, our existing database? Are we clear or do we know where things are coming from? Do we have the right roles? I mean, and there were definitely some gaps, and there will be gaps until we get a little bit more mature. But I think the readiness, the assessment of the readiness was the organization and the organizational leadership on board. That was
Mhm.
the biggest checkbox, right? And do we have enough of the key components in place to start? Because as you go along, you realize, oops, we didn't have that. We need, what is it? I say it wrong every single time.
Oh,
Sins,
Sendoso. Yeah, the
so
gifting.
we don't
Yeah,
have
some
a
sort of gifting.
right?
Mhm.
So you're like, "Oh, crap, we need to get that." So there are things. But I think we assess the assessment was, is the organization ready and the leadership was ready, and do we have enough of the main components in place in order to move forward? And we did. And I was still hesitant. I was still like, but we just finished doing this thing. I'm not ready to do a new thing." And we were like, "Rip the Band-Aid off. We're doing it." And that's
Yep,
how
yep.
we ended up here.
Yeah, that's great. Talk a little bit about you talked about the mindset shift that needs to happen at the executive level and Jennifer's taking care of a lot of that in her relationships up there. What about the mindset that need those shifts that need to happen inside of the team or that need to happen or have had to happen since you guys have started to make this move?
Needed to happen, happening, will continue to happen.
Yes, yes.
It is a
Amen. Yeah.
long term it's a long term, like, continuation of this is a partnership that we're as we evolve, the roles of everyone also has to evolve, how they participate and collaborate has to evolve. So I think where we started, so I started, like, with baby steps kind of when I was like, "Okay, this is happening whether or not I wanted to or not. I have to get on board." And as a leader of my team, I had to check myself and, like, I
Mm,
transparency is, like, literally my first language. I think English is my second. And so, like, I'm just gonna keep it all the way real. I had to get myself together before I can get my team together. I had to be like, "Okay, I am on board. I'm committed to this. This is the right thing to do. This is why we are doing it." I had to understand my why. And then I started with, okay, let me start with my immediate team first. So I actually like put together a deck and a presentation, and I didn't even make it about ABM. I made it about change, right? I made it
mm,
about introducing them to the concept that change was okay. And let's make some operational changes in our team so that the idea of changing things wouldn't feel like crazy disruptive to them. So Accenture did a study like maybe a year or so ago, and it said that the rate of change has grown by 183%. Like so, over like technology, people, processes with like AI, the
Yep.
with the pandemic, all of that stuff. Like things are moving fast and changing quickly, and we can all barely keep up, right? And so, like, really normalizing change within my immediate organization, I think for me was the way that I started it, right? I didn't make it about ABM specifically. I made it about how do I start getting my team comfortable with the fact that I'm about to flip this table over again. um, and then
Yeah,
one
indeed.
and it worked because also like I was kind of empowering them with stuff at the same time, like, let's try this new, like, and some people respond differently than others. But I think it set the stage to say, okay, great. Now that we've changed how we operate as a team, now that we're a little bit more comfortable in different areas, how now we're going to do this ABM thing. Also another change, but guess what, guys? Change isn't scary because you just did it, right? So
Mhm.
leaning on, kind of building on where we started with the change is good, everybody changes. This is something that we have to adapt and adjust to. And then starting to socialize what ABM was and was it what it wasn't. And so I
Mhm.
think a lot of traditional marketers are kind of scared of ABM for one reason or another. Because it's just different, right? Like you
Mhm.
don't learn the ABM when you go to digital school or marketing school. They just teach you all the traditional stuff and then you come
It's
and
true.
like, what is this ABM crap that we're supposed to be doing? And so really being
Mm.
able to educate, starting by educating the team. We also had like sessions with Inverta where we brought different people along as we were building out what ABS would look like for our organization, having people contribute, sharing the deck that we were like socializing, even if they weren't in parts of meetings. And then once we were kind of ready to launch it, walking through what ABM would look like for each of them, right? And so, if I think going into it, a lot of people thought ABM was going to be Kemal's tool, or it was going to be the digital marketing person's tool, or it might be an ops tool, like just another tool in our stack. And it's like, yeah, ABM has nothing to do with the tool. The tool is how we get the job done,
Yes.
but it
That's
is
right.
not ABM. ABM is a practice and it is a strategic change that is an organizational strategy, not a marketing strategy. And so, really trying to consistently drop pieces and nuggets into meetings and into decks, into all team meetings for the entire marketing organization, and to my one-on-ones to just kind of make it a consistent thing that everybody
Mhm.
starts to hear and possibly get a little bit tired of it, that this is this new thing that we're doing. It's super exciting. This is where we are today. This is what I learned. That's the other thing that I learned. I get really excited when I talk, so just tell me to slow down if I just
You're great. You're doing great.
okay.
Yeah, keep going.
The other thing that I've learned that's also useful, goes back to my first primary language is transparency, is change is hard because people don't know what to expect and they don't want to not be good at the thing that people expect them to be good at. And
Yeah.
so if as a leader, I go in and I'm like, look what I learned new. Or I say, like, hey guys, I know what I'm doing either. We're learning this together. It completely normalizes what's happening, what's doing, right? And so part of it is also like, I don't need to be the expert. I don't need to know everything about everything. Like I'm coming to my team and we're doing this together. We're starting all off on the same level and then sharing like I'll send a link to a team like, "Oh, look at this exciting thing that I just discovered," or "I did this really cool thing. Look what I just learned." I think it also gives them the permission to be curious and to go into the tool and be like, "Well, Kim, I don't know what she's doing either. So I can go in here and just kind of play around and learn too." And so then it becomes like a journey that we're all doing together, not something that they just hear in a presentation or in our one-on-one. It just kind of becomes like their own
Yep.
discovery for themselves.
Yeah. I think that's great. And I think one thing I've noticed about you through this process is you've been very curious. Like you ask a lot of questions and you're not afraid to ask questions that maybe you think you should already know the
Right.
answer to. And
Yep.
so you've really brought sort of that culture to like to the process of developing your ABM strategy, really understanding how we're going to go do this and learning along the way. You've really brought a great growth mindset, I would say, to the process. So kudos to you for that and leading the team in such a way to just lead through example in that way.
Thank you. I mean, that's
Yeah.
really my favorite part about anything on my job is leading, but leading by example. Like, you just can't tell people what to do. I'm a parent. That doesn't work. Right? You have to show them.
It used to, but not when they get older. Okay.
Not when they get older, like, no, and so I have a group of people that I want to get to do something, and the thing that I have found that has been, um, the most effective is, like, leading by example, like, showing what curiosity looks like, showing
Mhm.
what like, saying, like, "Hey, I don't know, but let me get the answer for you, and I'll get back," because people respect that so much more, and so I do try to give that to my team and demonstrate that to my team because that's important when you're learning something. I don't want anybody to pretend to be the expert because we'll never get good. Like, just say I
Mhm.
suck and we can all suck together because I suck in this area too because I don't know anything. And then we all
Yeah.
grow and be rock stars later together.
Yeah. I love that. And, I think some of the things you were talking about is you and I talked about, like, that sort of steady drumbeat of
Mhm.
consistency of the things that you're doing, and you talked a lot about folding that into everything you're doing. So, yeah, that's really good advice, I think, for anybody listening and, like, thinking about, like, going through a change or leading a change and helping a team go through that. Um One of the things you've done is some kind of a creative approach to getting the team thinking a little differently, and I'd love to have you talk a little bit and share with the audience how you did that, what you thought about, and talk them through sort of the exercise you took your team through during a recent onsite.
So we have let me give you a little bit of like just a smidge of background. Our team has grown over the last couple of years from being like maybe 6 people to being like 30 something people. Is totally right size for our organization and our right spot. But because we're all remote, we haven't had a chance to all be in the same room at the same time. We're a global team, so we have people in Germany, we have people in France. We have people all over the world, right? And so that also has some additional challenges, especially when you're trying to roll out change management that impacts like culture and how we all do work and some processes and operational things, right? So we had a meeting, and this was our first meeting with when our entire team had an opportunity to get together. And so I didn't wanna miss an opportunity to, talk and evangelize ABX and where we were and what we were doing, but I also wanted to make it feel like we were, like, maybe almost like a game, like, we were doing it together,
Hmm.
so it needed to be, like, engaging and fun. So I spent a great deal of time coming up with a game. I wish I brought the cards downstairs, so I don't have them. But I went to a restaurant, I'll tell you, it was a bar. It was a bar. I went to a bar, like, a couple of months ago, and they had some giant Uno cards that are bigger than my head, and I was like, "These are great." And so when I was started thinking about the game, and I was thinking about how I could make something really engagement, I thought I would leverage the Uno cards and use that to play a game and also teach my team the difference between MQAs and MQLs. So MQLs, obviously, very, very traditional, right? You're thinking about how you get a qualified lead. You get the person's the right persona. They've done a thing or enough of the things. They're good enough to send over to the sales team. They're going to follow up on them. Whereas a qualified account requires having the right people in a buying committee in one account that you are focused on multiple different efforts and areas and things like that. So what I did was I came up with a game and I'm looking at I want to make sure I get all the good tea right. I came up with a game and we separated everybody into three kind of different teams. So there were I will say 9 individuals and 2 teams with 9 people each. So the way that we came up with the teams was like completely random. I put everything like numbers, I pre-numbered everything, put it in a hat, and had another team member walk around and have everybody pick a hat. So that in and of itself is fun. You're like, "Who? What number are you? And what team are you on?" And I'm team A. I'm target account A, right? And so that kind of gets everybody like in the spirit, gets them up because we're in a conference room. And now everybody's like, okay, they really still don't know what's coming. And so, I kind of drum up the interest and the intensity, right? Like keep them all a little kind of, and then I just shared with them what the rules were. So the JJ, who is my boss, was like the game master, and I managed like the actual cars and made sure that everybody stayed on point. But essentially, like we use each color to mean something different. So red was what are online lead gen strategies. Green was what are offline lead gen strategies. Blue are best practices, and yellow are pitfall. So imagine you have a color and you pick a card and it's red and it's 9. So if you could say like online lead strategy would be posting a piece of content using hashtags on LinkedIn to try to get the attention of our data persona, right? And then that person would get nine points, right? And so, but the objective of it was that each of the people could kind of demonstrate what they were doing in support of the entire ecosystem, like how their specific body of work, because what a product person would say would be way different than something an email marketing
Sure.
person would say, a social media person would say, right? But then it also visually helps them see the impact, because the persons who are individual leads, it's going to take them so much longer to get to the score of, let's say, 25, right? If we say 25 is the threshold or 50 is the threshold, it's going to take them longer. They have to wait for the whole that for the hat to go around for them to even have a turn again, right? And
Yeah.
so while they're waiting for their turn again, the target accounts are like racking up their points until they score. Essentially, they score, and so and which is exactly what happened, right? The account got the scores first, and so the objective of it was really to like visually demonstrate so that everybody could see the difference in the effectiveness of a traditional model versus an account based model, right? And how even if you're still doing that one thing, if you're all doing that one thing to that one account, that one thing is way more effective than if you have to do that one thing to 9 people. And you have to do it multiple times. You have to have different messaging.
Hmm.
You have to try to hit them at craziness. If you think about traditional lead gen, it is a little bit crazy. And so the
Sure. Yeah.
the other thing, which was really fun, is that the individual leads, the MQLs, when they realized that they were never going to beat the accounts, one of the MQLs decided he was just going to do an acquisition and acquire all the other leads, and they were going to work together as a team. So, it was super fun. It was engaging. It was a way to talk about how traditional strategies look the same strategy can look different from an account than it can for an individual person, because maybe we're talking about our database for this one person that's interested in our database, and for this person we're talking about our data platform, and then maybe we're hitting this person with an email but this person with social. But when we're talking about that target account, we're only talking about manufacturing. We're only targeting like what these people specifically in this committee they care about and they're concerned about, and we're doing fewer things for more impact. And I think that was really what I wanted the team to walk
Hmm.
away with, was like this visual way to see that these accounts the activities that you're doing, if we kind of all do them together to this one account, will have more impact than the our individual efforts.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're paying attention to an account as opposed to an individual's. And then that way you're capturing what an account is doing as a whole, even if you're not necessarily marketing to them,
Yeah.
like directly to those individuals, it could be people outside of your purview and understanding who are still part of that buying committee that are still a part of that process. And so now you're seeing that happen, you understand it's happening, and you can react to it as opposed to I remember we were on a call with one of your sales leader once and he was just like, "Oh, we're always in reactive mode," you
Yeah.
know? And so
Yeah.
the idea of getting more into proactive mode was definitely, one of the reasons and impetuses for your move. How did the team um react to the activity? Like, was sort of after you guys finished and everybody was all settled back in, like, was there how was what was their sort of feedback on it, and did it help you think with the mindset shift?
I think it did help. I will say I feel like it engaged them, and it gave them like, "Oh, there's a there," right? Because we're still like
Yeah.
coming from early stages and early days. So I don't think it rocked anyone's world or changed anyone's mind. But I definitely think it got them engaged, because I did have like a bit of a presentation before where I talked about the important pieces of an ABM strategy. I talked about where we trend right now, like our maturity, like where we are on the ABM maturity curve, and then followed it up by a game. So it was kind of like the whole sandwich thing. You start with like the really boring stuff, informational stuff. You kind of get a game to get them excited, and kind of nail them back to the cross afterwards with more educational stuff. It was like that.
Yeah.
I think it served its purpose because also I think it demystified and made it a little less scary, right? At least that's
Mhm.
what I like to believe. But at the end of the day, if all I did was play a game, I would not have done my job. Like
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
the every conversation I have, I think about the next conversation I need to have. Like what did I learn about my team in this engagement? Where was some of the areas where I was like, maybe I expected them to say this and they didn't say that. All right, the next time we talk about it, this is the thing I'm going to call out because it has to be a
Yeah.
steady drumbeat. Like it is such, I cannot underscore enough, or I think it's underscore is probably the right way to say it, enough how important and how big an ABM undertaking is for an
Mm.
entire organization.
Yes.
You think you're gonna put one deck in front of your team and then you're done? Don't start.
Yeah.
Because that's not
Yeah.
it, right? So,
Yeah.
was part of the conversation, but the conversation just
Yeah.
didn't stop after that. It is a steady thing, and I think I just had a presentation for the entire marketing team. Again, here's my ABX slides, here's my ABM deck. Let's talk about
Yeah.
where we are today. It just
Yeah.
become consistent, inviting people to conversations and meetings maybe they would normally not be involved in and a part of, right? And just
Mhm.
kind of finding great. This is another thing that I learned is you bring people on the journey with you. You don't just like put it together and put a bow on it and say, this is the thing that we're doing. Nobody's going to care about it at that point. Right. And
That's right.
so I
Yep.
think I definitely am trying to do a good job in bringing the team with me, not just the marketing team, not just the demand gen team, not just the ops team, but also like the PMM, our field team. Like we had a field person on one of our calls. We've had a sales development person on our calls. We have like weekly waterfall calls where we review stuff. I bring stuff to that cross functional team. We have trainers on that team. We have sales ops on that
Yep.
team. I use every opportunity I possibly can to talk about ABX so that it is how we do business, not what we're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, building that into your DNA is really crucial. And I like how you talked about it's not just your team that you've got to bring along, but it's that cross-functional approach that you have to bring along. So that's great. And I've watched you do it and I think it's definitely gaining traction. Like you
Yeah.
said, it's a journey, so it's an ongoing process, but yeah, it's definitely you can see the tides of change happening. So it's really good. So
And
kudos to
it's
you.
fun to see, to be perfectly honest, like,
Yeah.
I am not a person that just embraces change. I love steady drum beats and repetition, right? But even someone like me who likes I wanna show up and have everything in order, I've enjoyed seeing, like, the ship kind of slowly change and,
Yeah.
one reaching out to me like, "Hey, I had a question about an MQA." Oh, you do? I'm so excited.
Yes. Okay, that's amazing. I love that. That's a
So,
great
that's
that's a great tidbit. Okay, well, we're gonna wrap up here soon, Kimma. But we like to leave our audience with a pro tip. And I'm curious, like, what advice would you give to, marketing leaders who might be getting ready to embark on a similar journey with their organization, whether it be ABM, but even just some sort of heavy change management, but probably better to speak about ABM specifically. But what's a piece of advice you'd give them? Like, what should be the main thing they're thinking about, or how to get started or something like that?
um, that's a great question. I think I kind of alluded to it before, but I think being consistent, right? Like, first of all, doing a self check and making sure that you're fully aligned and you know your why as a leader first, why you're doing this. Because if you walk into it like, okay, guys, this is what we're doing, like they're gonna be like, I guess I don't really care about this, right? And so you as a leadership need to be fully aligned, fully on board, and fully committed to everything you're telling your team. You will not be
Yeah.
successful otherwise. So just doing a self check and some inventory, and if that requires you to do some additional training, to get an additional skill, do that. To take a class, to do a webinar, to get outside help, do that. Be realistic about the changes that you can do and you can't implement. I don't think anybody expects to be able to have to do everything. So be real about where your strong areas are and be willing
Yeah.
to tap into the right people that can help you in those other areas. Um, and then the consistency part, like once you're committed and you know what the plan is and the game plan is, make sure that you are over communicating until people are repeating back to you what you say to them. Like it needs to be
Mm.
like newsletters, Slack messages, one-on-ones, team meetings, a blip, I don't care, like, whatever you have to do make sure that your team understands, like, what's happening and why it's happening. Keep everybody in the loop. Bring people with you on the journey. Don't just deliver them a program that you're expecting them to kind of adopt. And then I think the last thing was, like, be realistic on how long it's going to take, right? Is a
Mhm.
crawl, walk, run. Like, do not say, like, "This is the first time I've been to the gym and tomorrow I'm gonna run a marathon." No, you're not. It's not gonna happen, right? So it's just like
It's true.
anything else, you have to develop the muscle, be realistic, be patient, but stay the course. Like, I think another thing that sometimes happens is you start something off, it either doesn't go the way that you want to, or it feels a little bit more difficult, or people aren't fully on board. It's okay to take a step back and say, like, okay, maybe I made a left turn when I should have made a right. It's a lot easier to go back a couple steps than it is to start all over in another year with another team, et cetera, et cetera. So be patient, be realistic, stay the course.
Great advice. Yeah, that is fantastic advice. Thank you, Kimmah, for that. Okay, well, we're out of time, but
You believe it.
thank you so much for being here and talking about this. Really great story. I love the creativity that you brought to the exercise with the team to sort of bring them along a little bit more too. And yeah, best of luck to you guys and all of the work to launch your ABM programs and in 2025, here we come.
I'm so excited. Thank you for having me. This was so much fun. I can't believe it's already been 40 minutes. I was like, we will not have enough time to talk. And here we are, like at time, like gotta wrap
There we
it up.
go.
So thank you so
There you
much
go.
for having me.
All right. Thanks, Kimmah. Appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in to the Rev Room today. We hope you enjoyed this episode. For more, be sure to subscribe and leave us a review. Don't forget to follow Inverta on LinkedIn for more updates and exclusive content. That's Inverta, INVERTA. Have a question or a topic you'd like us to cover? Reach out and let us know. Until next time, keep innovating and driving that revenue growth. See you next time.